Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq, with daily insight on the Nasdaq 100 Index, or the NDX, which is made up of 100 of the largest domestic and international non-financial innovative companies listed on Nasdaq. The NDX has been the barometer for U.S. large cap growth and also one of the best performing indexes over the last decade and a half, not to mention one of the most liquid index ecosystems in the world. Joining us this Friday afternoon, we have Mark Marex, Senior Specialist with Index Research and Development with Nasdaq Investment Intelligence. For this segment, we're going to highlight the 4 pharmaceutical NDX components that overlap the Nasdaq Biotech Index, as January is National Biotechnology Month. Mark, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thanks so much, Jill. Great to be back.
All right, you got it. And let's kick it off with some more additional information with these 4 companies and some performance metrics.
Yeah, sure. So last week, it's been a long one, talked about the 4 biotech names within NDX that overlap with that Nasdaq Biotech Index. This week, we're talking about the other 4 names in NDX that overlap with that index. These are classified as pharmaceutical, but I'll point out to you right on this first slide, if you look at the yellow line with Amgen there, Amgen's the largest company in this group and actually the largest component of the Nasdaq Biotech Index as well. One of the longest running biotech companies in existence, was actually reclassified from biotech to pharmaceuticals late last year by ICB. Really kind of an interesting debate whether certain companies should be classified as pure play biotech versus pure play pharma versus this increasingly common hybrid of biopharmaceutical. But in any case, that kind of tangent aside, take a look at the performance here. You can see at the very top, NDX up about 27% in price performance terms for full year 2021. Gilead in purple is really the only one that comes close in terms of approximating performance last year of this group. Gilead also one of the longer running names that we're going to take a deeper dive into in a second here. Rounding out this group, you can see below NBI's return of just under flat for the year, loss of 0.6%. You've got Amgen there at a loss of 2.2. Vertex Pharmaceutical, a name which has done really well for a number of years now, down just over 7%. And then Seagen down a little under 12% for the year. So a very mixed bag of performance. For a group that is not a huge percentage of the Nasdaq index weight, the Nasdaq 100 index weight overall, but still an important group to pay attention to, as it gives you, a very different type of exposure than the kind of traditional tech and consumer businesses that we usually focus on with the Nasdaq 100 index.
Right, and Mark, it's so interesting, back to your point with how it's classified, whether it's pharma, whether it's biotech, because if you look at your next slide here, when we take a deeper dive into Amgen, you can see in the description that it develops therapeutics to treat disease, which sounds very biotech-ish to me.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Amgen was founded back in 1980, right when this industry was really just getting started, with a lot of startups in California and Cambridge, Massachusetts in particular. Amgen's grown to be a really, really stable business with a long line of drugs that it's developed, in some cases you could say maybe a little bit more intensely focusing on cutting edge biotech, and in other cases kind of taking the more traditional pharmacological kind of chemical approach to it. But you can see in the 2 highlights that I've given you here with recent news from Amgen in terms of therapeutics that they've developed and are either getting approval for or are moving in that direction. Lumakras came out midway through last year as a protein kind of mutation specific micromolecule that blocks this mutation from causing something like 1 out of every 4 lung cancer diagnoses is a protein mutation that's present in a couple other different types of cancer, and shows a lot of promise, and not a chemical, not a treatment that could have been developed without a lot of advancements in kind of more traditional genomics-based biotech. Things also like protein imaging advances that really took this condition, this particular mutation that was thought for decades to be undruggable, quote unquote, and allowed Amgen to really commit to a new approach to treating it, and within, excuse me, within pretty short amount of time, was able to come out with a really, really effective treatment. So very encouraging there. On the right-hand side, you can see they're actually partnering with another firm to use RNA technology to target other different types of diseases. So again, Amgen, I think with this one, you could go either way. You could say that it's still a biotech. It's been a biotech for 4 decades. You could say that it's maybe resembling some of its larger, more diversified pharmaceutical competitors like Pfizer and J&J at this point. It's a murky area, but certainly a very, very crucial big player in the biotech space for decades past and probably decades to come.
Right. And let's wrap up here with Gilead, right? Of course, big in the immunotherapy and oncology spaces. Yeah,
so Gilead has a ton of drugs out that specifically fight antivirals. Fight virals. They're called antivirals. Things like Descovy and Biktarvy that are out there to prevent and then also treat symptoms of HIV. Things that really allow, folks to live with HIV in a way that you just weren't able to maybe 5 or 10 years ago. So they've really kind of developed into that antiviral mega cap type of biotech specialist. And now they're starting to branch out more into that oncology direction, right? Trying to develop a world-class oncology portfolio. A thing on the right that I highlighted here, Veklury, better known maybe to folks who read the news a lot about COVID-19, a powerful antiviral with the generic name of remdesivir has been really, really effective in preventing death in some of those more serious COVID-19 hospitalizations over the past, call it, year and a half. So Gilead, again, another major player, market cap of 85 billion, been around for over 3 decades now. You could say it's a pure play biotech. You could say it's now matured into a biopharmaceutical. We'll see how much these names end up evolving over the coming decade as these advancements continue to happen in places like gene therapy, cell therapy, and immunotherapy. So very exciting stuff.
All right. We appreciate the insight as always, Mark. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.